Okay, as I said you that the diplomat is not only a person who represents the political stream, and he or she must have a knowledge which should include even an encyclopedia. For an example, a tourist guide who guides to a tourist must have a knowledge about the entire country, resources and different dimensions like archaeology, natural resources, everything. Diplomat must have a knowledge rather than a tourist guide in tourism, right? Because that if that person knows the potentials and the unique values of a country, in an event which the tour, diplomat understands that this country, the working country, has potentials to tackle those values to attract the tourists to the country, then he or she can use that when these type of events are conducted. For an example, if there is a cultural exhibition, how the Sri Lanka's culture can represent that exhibition to attract more and more tourists. And if there is any festival like sports, then diplomat must propagate these facts to the country which he or she serves, that there is such festival or any seasonal type of event to boost the tourism, not only to attract the tourist, even to sell the product which based on the tourism industry. Therefore, the diplomat must try with the existing knowledge and the knowledge, they must struggle to add their values, sorry, add their knowledge to the wisdom. Because that if they can gather more and more knowledge about the country and the potentials and the situation, not only the potentials and the situation, even the economical goals of the existing government, how the tourism must be promoted and such things. And sometimes there may be issues which can be culturally banned and restricted. When such things are promoted outside of the country, when they come to the country, the tourists will be helpless, because that cultural values will ban those activities and practices. Therefore, which areas the tourist can get the different experiences, and there should be at least the workshops, film festivals. Such things can be used to boost, and not only to boost, even promote the tourism.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, while the discussion, what I understood is that tourism really helps a lot to build stronger international relations. So, do you think that cultural tourism helped Sri Lanka to create long-term relations with the other countries?
Of course, because that culture is identical to a nation to a nation. Therefore, when it becomes an identical thing, it generates the curiosity. When the culture is common, there is no curiosity. Therefore, if there is something curious, people used to explore it. Different cultural values can be used to attract, especially the identical cultural values. For example, procession, candy procession, is one of the key tools which most of tourists attract to Sri Lanka. And such things, culturally identical things, can be marketed and it can be sold to attract tourists and to generate the tourism income through that. And there may be a lot of things that the culture can be spoiled, but if we can keep it as a secure, and if we can consider that, if we can respect our culture, not only to show them, we can pursue how our culture, and we can urge them to experience our culture. Culture does not say only the, does not imply the way we dress, way we talk, way we behave, and even way we eat, way we consume, right? Our cuisines, traditional cuisines are also part of our culture, and traditional medicine, and our traditional technology, and everything will be a part of our culture. Therefore, those can be used as a tool throughout the curiosity of human to attract people. But the thing is that the most important thing, how we present those things to the outside world. It is the most important thing. And how can we promote those? How can we aware the international communities about our culturally very curious features to those people, and they will surely come and try to experience this only if there is value and extraordinary value and the features. Then I think that culture is a big tool to promote. Culture does not imply all those things. It goes even through the meditations and the religious things too. And you suppose about the Catholic religion, Christianity, and Christians are spread all over the world. But there are identical Christian features in Sri Lanka, like Madu Church, and therefore identical structure of we used to say archaeology of building, archaeology of temple, archaeology of the shrines and the hovels of Sri Lanka can be used. It is also part of culture, and festivals based on the religions. Those are also cultural tools and features. Therefore, what can't we sell in tourism? Therefore, as you said, the culture is a big tool to promote the tourism. Okay.
Thank you so much. So, which country do you think Sri Lanka can build stronger ties with tourism exchanges?
Of course, that when we consider tourism as an industry, and when we think of the perspective of international relations, and we must, as we suppose that tourism as an income to the country, and if we want to boost the economy through tourism, we must focus much about the rich nations, and because that they have the purchasing value, purchasing ability, they have the ability to spend their money much in our country. But it's not easy to urge them and pursue them to spend much. We must give them a proper value for their cost. Therefore, when we consider about luxury tourism, it is very difficult to be a competitor in the world market, because the luxury nature can't be easily created. We are not much rich people only if we don't have the foreign investors to invest. But throughout our identical eco and cultural features, we can urge our tourists to spend a lot. The important thing is to use our cultural and tourism tools to promote such countries like the most rich people, rich countries, rich nations. As the figures and the statistic refers, we can understand the UK, United Kingdom, provide us a lot of tourists, and but considerably US doesn't send us much tourists. And for future, in the future, we must focus much toward those nations like France. France in Europe has a good economy, and not only France, even Scandinavian countries like Norway and Sweden. Rather than we can see throughout the statistics, the mostly sent tourists are from Indians, right? But Indians do not used to spend much. Chinese are spending much rather than the previous era. But there are so many similar destinations which can tourists choose instead of Sri Lanka. Then giving such identical features, experience to our identical features, we must offer them a relatively considerable cost for their experience and good service. There is a tragedy, we must talk much, both government and the private sector, people who are engaging in tourism, in wildlife selling, charge a lot for the tickets from tourists. But the thing is, we must argue whether we are providing a better service toward them. Considerably, when we consider about Tanzania and the South African region, at wild safaris and visits, they provide a better service rather than the wildlife. We are spending zero for the wildlife and the development of safari and tourism facilitation, but we earn a lot. then why can't we earn at least a percentage of earnings to develop those things, even better roads and the infrastructure like sanitation and informations to get the experience much more rich, and those things should be developed. But the thing is, as you asked, the countries like Switzerland is a place which tourists used to visit, but Switzerland provides the tourists to the outward too, because that they can spend a lot. And European countries, UK, and not only that, even some rich Asian countries and the Chinese, the percentage, because that when we consider about the culturally important things, Buddhist respect Sri Lanka rather than the other. But thing is that there are so many Buddhist countries. They used to worship and visit India, but they don't give their much priority to visit Sri Lanka, despite there are so many relics and important places. Even the Indian Buddhists visit Sri Lanka, but world Buddhists rarely come to Sri Lanka because no propaganda, no values to urge them to come to Sri Lanka. That is why there are so many nations, and we must seek about the new destination. And if we can propagate and popularize our tourism to the countries like South Africa and such countries, we can attract more and more tourists.
Yeah, so it was really interesting to know about diplomacy and foreign relations when talking about the promotion of Sri Lankan tourism. And you mentioned about the Buddhism as well, where we can think about tourism promotion in Buddhist countries through relations. And what do you think about boosting exports through tourism? And how can tourism help increase Sri Lanka's exports to the world market?
Of course, then finding the buyers is very important for export and international trade. Then you know that Sri Lanka invaded by Europeans. They came here seeking the spices and religious parties to attach their religions. Uh, as we know that the spices of Sri Lanka can promote the exports. We already have promoted exports, but the thing is, there are so many countries which which provides the tourists to Sri Lanka, but they don't import the spices from Sri Lanka. Not only spices, even the tea. There are competitors in the tea industry, India and China, as well as the used to say Ghana and several countries too. Then being a big producer in tea industry, why can't we promote our identical tea flavor and the texture to the tourist? But the thing is that we must have a proper hospitality strategy to sell our identical things, rather than because of there is a culture for coffee. Still, we don't have a culture for tea in the world. Therefore, there are coffee lounges, but we can't see the tea lounge for tourism. That is why we can rarely see, but it is not popularized all over the world. We can't say that the trade names like barista, but all those products are based on the brands of coffee. But still, we don't have such brands for tea. Then tea culture. Tea culture can be introduced to promote our things to export, and not only that, even the cosmetics based on our spices and the indigenous medicines, those things can be really marketed. But first we must give the tourists to experience them. Tourists are not only the just visitors. Among those people, there may be the diplomats, there may be the traders, there may be the people who can invest big income in our investment, like capitalists. They used to visit Sri Lanka seeking opportunities while admiring the nature. Therefore, each individual who visits Sri Lanka can be used to promote the brand. What we should do is giving them the experience to experience our identical values like spices, foods, and even the textile, local things. What we do is not selling our things. We used to sell even Chinese products, such what we import, and sometimes we sell our foods. At our food lounge, we can see that Chinese traditions, Indian tradition. Where is Sri Lankan tradition? That is a big question.
Yeah, so do you think are there any specific products that have the highest potential to be promoted through tours to the global market?
Yes, as we know that cinnamon, we are providing cinnamon to the world as a number one supplier to the world. Cinnamon and tea is popular and already existing products to the world. But there are so many things which we have never used. Cosmetics based on the local plants, which we have never used, but those can be used. Developing as products, cosmetics can be used, and in identical foods of Sri Lanka, flavors like spices, for an example, even cardamom, cloves, and such spices which we have never used as product. We have directly sold those as the raw materials and the raw products. Then we must develop the value-added products, and through those foods, spices, as well as gem and jewelry can be promoted. Not only that, even our minerals and can't you say that how our water is pure? Water can be branded to the world as a pure brand, Sri Lanka water. Such things can be promoted.
Yeah, so when we are talking about the products and how we can promote them through tourism, and there are some local brands such as Pazilon, Barista, which are also popular among the Sri Lankan tourists. So, do you think tourism can be used as a platform to introduce Sri Lankan brands to global markets? And if you think so, what ways that we can use to do that?
Of course, conducting exhibitions is very important. Conducting exhibition not only in Sri Lanka, even outside of the world. These brand exhibitions can promote tourism, and brand exhibitions can promote even exports. Both exports and tourism can be developed and promoted throughout this brand exhibition. Brand exhibition not only for the products, brand exhibitions can be used even for services like the identical features of our hotels and hospitality, identical features of our local foods, and those can be branded at different places. Therefore, as I said you earlier, the role of diplomat is also to conduct such events like exhibition even outside of the country. And not only outside of the country. For an example, Canton Fair of China attracts a lot of tourists and guests, not only the business people. Then if we have world-class exhibition in Sri Lanka, rather than the cost, we can earn a lot. We can generate the income a lot. Therefore, conducting internal and external exhibition is a big tool for promoting both tourism and exports.
Yeah, thank you so much talking about how we can boost exports through tourism. And I hope you have an idea to share with us regarding how Sri Lankan services can be used to earn foreign income. So when it comes to that, what types of Sri Lankan services can we sell to tourists to increase the foreign income to our country?
Actually, very important question, right? Even though we have a lot of resources, no governments, neither governments nor officials of government think that we can provide a service to sell. Let's think of education, our education. Most of our people, students used to migrate abroad for getting the education. But there are so many potentials which foreign students can attract Sri Lanka to get the education. Example, our indigenous cultural dancing, because that it is very popular among tourists, and it is a fashion, and indigenous medicine. It is also practically very remarkable, and we used to say it is marvelous, stupendous skill of people, of local people, to heal some non-communicable diseases also. Therefore, if we can promote those things, and if we can give the education to the outworld, we can make a traditions to the outworld that we have identical features to say. Then such things of training, giving the education is also a service. We can attract more income throughout the education, but education should never be the education which we take from those countries. There should be the identical education. How our fisheries industry, how our agriculture, indigenous agriculture is done. Because that some people say that our agriculture is not developed. We can't say so, because that our agriculture is developed, which harms, because that it harms very least things to the nation and also the environment. Therefore, there are identical features in each practice. Even fishery industry, still to fishermen, right? And also different cultures of fishery industry and tea plugging. Everything, plantation industry can be used for teaching foreign students. Therefore, education can be used as a tool to generate an income. Why can't we start our universities which teach only the local and identical studies? Therefore, if you can start such things, there are so many places all over the world. Even our philosophy, Buddhist philosophy, and meditation, psychology, Buddhist-based psychology, and those things will be very developed. And if you can use these to give them as a training opportunity or even the education, it can be so. Not only that, a service sector like hospitality can be used. Medicine sector to treat people, considering the medical values of Sri Lanka, why can't we start highly invested, very developed hospitals which treat only the local and indigenous medicine? Do you know that in tourism industry, spas earn a lot, but in spas, it practices only least thing, very primitive things to heal people's diseases. But at our Ayurvedic hospital, there are marvelous and very stupendous things, techniques to treat patients. Therefore, such services can be used to earn an income as well as generate an income.
Yeah, so you mentioned about the education, that we can promote our own education methods, systems, universities like things, especially with student exchange programs as well, and the indigenous medicine as well. So how about any IT training or event management? How can we promote that?
Of course, that even though the IT is much developed outside, especially the regional countries like India, event management is not much popular in Sri Lanka, but it can be popular. As I said you earlier, the processions and cultural festivals, weddings, because the traditions of wedding tradition among the tourists has been popular. I have noticed that they love to get their weddings as per our cultural features and traditions. They have explored a lot rather than Sri Lankans. Therefore, providing the wedding opportunities. I have participated a lot of weddings of the foreigners which which took in Sri Lankan hotels too. Therefore, these can be made as a trend to promote the events. And not only that, as I said, due processions, festival, cultural and religious festivals, those things, and the seasonal festivals like Nuvarelia during April. And as it is close to the August, and why can't we promote such seasonal festival? Because as we are living in a place like close to the equator, there are so many things that we can arrange all over the year. Therefore, season-based things can be arranged here, and festivals like the beach sports can be arranged. Therefore, so many things can be used. As you said, the IT, how IT can be used to promote tourism is very important, because that if we can use not only the applications like AI applications and throughout the website should take identical feature, and it should have a shape of Sri Lanka. We can adapt the technology, but the style and fashion must be identical. It doesn't say that we should follow only the culture. It is not to practice the culture, it is to promote the culture to earn income. Because when there is identical feature, we have the curiosity. It is special, it is extraordinary. When the common thing is practiced, it is not special, it is common. That is why if something is strange, it can be popularized. If something is normal and general, it will never be popular. That is why the strange features will attract more. That is why.
Yeah, so it's very interesting to know that strange features or the special features in Sri Lanka can attract tourists more and more often. So, do you think that it is possible to build a tourism model that is based on professional services, not only natural attractions?
As you said, both things should be practiced together. Professional practice is very important, and natural attraction is also very important. We have passive attraction of Sri Lanka, not due to the professional practice. I am not saying totally not, because that our airline service has been popular among tourists as the professional service is given. But most of time our places are not well organized to give the professional service. Our hospitality industry is somewhat rich, but we don't follow the standards. Having natural beauty and the scenic beauty, we attract people, but we must train them in order to make everyone professional. Not only the people who are engaging in tourism industry like the guides and the hoteliers, even the bus conductors, drivers, trishaw drivers, even the doctors of hospitals, nurses, and the people who are providing the services like the boutique shop managers and the sales people, and the security people, and even the passengers. Everyone must be trained as professional brand ambassadors to promote tourists. In order to make such a big change, we must change the attitudes of people. Making tourism key to. We must urge our local communities. Tourism is important. Tourism is dependent on your quality and the practice of hospitality. And when only if you are professional to provide them, it will be very practical to promote. Then professionalism is very important, and rather than the natural values, because of the if even though a person who attracts Sri Lanka tourists, if a tourist visits Sri Lanka due to the natural values, will visit once but will never come again and will never promote their experience to others if it is bad and bitter. Then therefore once one individual visits Sri Lanka, must urge him, pursue him to comes again and again and again, and that tourist who visited here should be used to promote our tourism as a brand ambassador to promote Sri Lanka throughout the word of mouth, as I think.
Yeah, so if I ask this question, what opportunities do you see for Sri Lanka through tourism-based diplomacy in the next few years?
As you said, as you asked me earlier, and as I said you earlier, we must train the diplomats in a proper place like to diplomatic college or place regularly while working them. There should be a platform to discuss the issues and the trends of those countries, and we must call them occasionally and should give them the training, education, awareness, and should aware and equip them, arm them for facing the future challenges. Each and every sector has a competition. Therefore, each and every country has similar values and resources too. Therefore, we must teach our diplomats. We must train our diplomats how to adapt our important values and how to present our important values to the outside people. Therefore, diplomacy must be very formal, which should be very professional, and the leaders of the diplomatic team must be much educated throughout international relations, conventions, and our cultural values. Everything must be, because that, as I said you earlier, a diplomat must be an encyclopedia. Right? Encyclopedia, even though encyclopedia, if he doesn't know about the local and individual values, it is useless. It should be an encyclopedia to cover the entire values of the nation.
Thank you so much. So, by and by, we've reached the end of our discussion. So, finally, I would like to ask what key challenges must Sri Lanka overcome fully to use tourism fully as a tool for diplomacy and foreign income?
I said you already, to have a very rich diplomatic team and changing the attitude of people and keeping our country very clean and formal and without making any harm to the people and hurting the tourists which come. When they leave the country, we must make a good image in their hearts. And if we can do that, existing tourism can be used to double and triple the tourism scale of Sri Lanka. Not only that, and we must think of new strategies, not the passive strategies, active strategies to promote the features, uh, bringing the tourism toward the step of the future visitors and guests of the world, and we must go toward them to talk about our values.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you very much for your valuable insights and thought-provoking discussion as well. So I think our discussion will be a good reference for the officials as well. So this discussion actually highlighted how diplomacy, tourism, exports and professional services can all work together to build our country, Sri Lanka, much more stronger. So we truly appreciate your time, Mr. Prabodha Lahuge, and the thoughtful contributions throughout the discussion. And to our viewers, thank you so much for your attention throughout the program, and hope to see you back again through another very useful program. Thank you so much.